Murasaki Shikibu's The Tale of Genji is a designated national treasure in the nation of Japan, a distinguished honor considering Japan's rich cultural history. What makes the tale unique is its unprecedented originality, an artistic form which emerged without a true predecessor. Genji is generally regarded as the world's first true novel, a notion based on its superior plot structure, character development, and various thematic elements which prevail throughout the extensive narrative. The story contains a wealth of information and insight into the lifestyle of Japan during the Heian era, and the literary techniques and underlying themes encapsulate many of the religious, philosophical, and cultural trends of the day. Buddhism began influencing Japanese thought much before the novel was written, and the entire novel contains an underlying current of Buddhist principles. Shikibu's ultimate message, and the true importance of the tale of Genji, is a commentary on Buddhist observations on transience, impermanence, and detachment. Thus, the tale of Genji, as a work of literature, contains a multitude of Buddhist elements, but more importantly, examines the merits and practicality of Buddhism in the context of a human world. The Genji emerged from a highly aristocratic society, a period known as the Heian era in Japanese history, which lasted from 804 to 1185. Japan was searching for a unified identity after years of internal conflicts between rival clans, as well as significant Chinese intervention. The national capital was established in Heian-ko, modern-day Kyoto, and the dominant Fujiwara clan assumed political control. The most powerful tool for maintaining power was known as marriage politics, where the emperor's chief asset was a carefully designed network of marriage ties to the imperial family, which he manipulated to great effect. Strong emperors with intricately developed family ties to the throne were finally able to participate in diplomatic discussions after establishing a stable aristocratic court. After years of struggle, peaceful relations with China allowed for a direct interplay of ideas and culture, expanding the definition of Japanese identity in both internal affairs and external perceptions. The Japanese culture solidified while simultaneously expanding and adapting, thus allowing room for significant intellectual and artistic development. The author of the Genji, Murasaki Shikibu, represents the typical aristocratic woman in Heian era Japan. Her date of birth is generally accepted as 973, when Fujiwara no Michingana ruled over the Heian court. Sources of information about Murasaki's life include various autobiographical poems, her personal diaries, and the Genji itself. Many believe that much of Murasaki's personality and personal history can be found within her defining work. According to her diaries, she married Fujiwara no Nobutaka in 998, but was soon a widow after her elderly husband passed away during an epidemic. Thus free from the traditional duties of marriage, she re-immersed herself in religious studies, specifically assessing the merits of Japanese Buddhism and Confucianism. While serving as a designated cultural companion cum tutor, an office with little responsibility and importance in the court, she began writing the Genji in the year 1002 and would constantly retool her masterpiece as her life and legend continued on. The Genji contains 54 chapters, hundreds of characters, and an intricate plot structure. The novel begins with Prince Genji's birth, a hero who is declared to be destined for greatness. Yet the name Genji in the Japanese context denotes one who is unfit to become an emperor, and thus the specific karmic destiny of the main character is implied at the very beginning. The first 12 chapters chronicle Genji's sexual exploits within the court. They serve as an up-close personal examination of the marriage politics so vital to the Heian political system. Genji is married to Aoi, the daughter of the minister of the left, and has sexual relations with a number of different women, the consequences of which will continuously haunt the hero. One such incident is of particular importance. Fujitsubu, an older lady of the court who closely resembles Genji's mother, becomes the unattainable object of Genji's desires, and he focuses all his energy on attaining her, with disastrous results. Genji also goes against the grain of society when he finds Murasaki, who is really Fujitsubu's niece, living in an abandoned mansion. He takes her under his wing, eventually developing an unhealthy attachment to her, his most favored, which ultimately destroys him. After living in exile on the Isle of Suma, Genji returns to the court only to encounter further complications and consequences. In a symbolic representation of karmic law, the jealous Lady Rokujo assumes the form of a ghost after her death and attacks Genji's most favorite, Murasaki, causing her eventual death. Genji is emotionally destroyed by Murasaki's death and prepares himself to experience the change of the seasons for one more year in solitude before he dies. The Buddhist renunciation, however, is always out of reach for Genji. A key element of spiritual identity which is discussed throughout the entire novel Genji knows the importance of renunciation and detachment, but is never fully able to achieve these important Buddhist goals. The final 10 chapters, known as the Uji chapters, follow Genji's grandson Nyu and Kaoru, the son of one of Genji's wives and his nemesis Kochigawa, who is eventually destroyed by his immoral act of adultery. The karma acquired throughout the novel exhibits a powerful influence across generations, and Genji's successors fail to escape the toil and tumult of life. The interconnectedness of past actions and future consequences embodies an important Buddhist theme as the story concludes with a transient tone. The two prominent sects of Buddhism in practice at the time of the Genji was written are the Tendai and Shingon schools. Saisho, who founded the Japanese Tendai school, and Kukai, who founded the Shingon school, were both commissioned by the government to study Buddhist thought at Chinese temples. The Tendai sect is based solely on the Holy Lotus Sutra, a widely circulated Buddhist text which held that every man had the capacity to attain Buddhahood in the present life, a belief which was in direct contrast to the elitist Buddhism being practiced in some urban areas. This belief in samsara and nirvana as opposites, which in reality are two aspects of the same phenomenon, is known as non-dualism, and this is the subject of Genji's internal turmoil throughout the entire Genji. Esoteric or tantric practices were crucial to both the Tendai and Shingon schools, and their ease and simplicity made Buddhism more widespread and accepted in Japan. The schools taught the healing power of chanting Amitabha's name and reciting the Lotus Sutra, and the Genji offers various examples of characters engaging in these fruitless activities in an attempt to gain salvation. By the end of the Heian Age, Buddhist thought had turned more pessimistic, focusing on salvation from the current degenerate age. Buddhist teachers began preaching that the current era represented the low point of the cycle, advertising salvation. Buddhism essentially underwent a thorough maturation process in Japan, focusing on different religious values at different times. One finds an intriguing parallel between the maturation and development of Buddhism in Japan and the development of Murasaki Shikibu's personal philosophies and attitudes towards Buddhism. Her attitudes seem to morph as the plot flows onward, beginning in the court and ending with the image of the lowly mountain at Uji. Thus, the syncretic Buddhism indirectly expressed in the Genji is a combination of all these aspects of Buddhist development in Japan, as well as the author's personal commentary on these conflicted religious teachings. Murasaki Shikibu's work is centered around its characters, which have powerful human emotions confusing the Buddhist ideals which are held aloft. Genji is said to possess Hikari, marked by the divine light of the Buddha, yet he never is able to achieve any semblance of Buddhahood. Rather, the karmic law dominating the entire novel intervenes in his life, and he expresses a desire to flee his problems by devoting himself to a religious career, such as becoming a Buddhist monk. Certain characters, like the third princess, are portrayed in a hypocritical light for making this decision, abandoning strong emotions which seem to possess some degree of importance. The impermanent ties to the world are virtually inescapable for the characters in the novel. Lady Rokujo, tied to the world by jealousy over Genji's transgressions, wreaks havoc upon the community in the form of a hungry ghost, a Buddhist concept regarding the deceased who carry a strong devotion to worldly phenomenon. The Japanese concept of mono no aware, or beauty fades, beauty passes, however rare it be, is an apparent lesson in the Genji, a crucial aspect of the novel. Aside from the detailed account of aristocratic life in Heian Japan and the tangible references to the religious practices and ideas of the day, there is a message conveyed by the author meant to impact her audience. In the end, none of Genji's relationships last, and his attachments to his world embody his greatest weakness and the source of his suffering. Throughout the work, however, Murasaki explains and validates his sentiments, regarding them as natural human tendencies and virtually unavoidable. None of the characters in the Genji fully come to understand themselves, much like the characters in Shakespeare's Hamlet. The motivations and internal thought processes of the characters are intentionally and explicitly described by the narrator to illustrate an overall point. The nature of the human mind, grappling with the utter gravity of love, suffering, and psychology, is eternally conflicted and lost. Buddhism as a religion attempts to clarify the issue by emphasizing detachment. This option always seems available, and is indeed desired by the characters in the Genji, but it is never fully realized. The novel's last chapter is titled The Floating Bridge of Dreams, the only chapter title not derived from a poem within the chapter. Scholars agree that this affords the conclusion a special status in the context of the entire story. At the end, Kaoru is left wandering alone, searching for answers. A true representation of all the novel's characters and their common confusion. The principal source of confusion in the genji is the conflicts which arise between men and women in the pursuit of love, and this common Japanese literary theme, known as Ichion Hanare, is directly applicable to both Genji and Kaoru after the deaths of Murasaki and Oigimi. Thus, the floating bridge of dreams at the end of the novel is symbolic of the tenuous bridge between men and women, as well as the spiritual bridge between